All right, so many of you have been asking for this deep dive, and we are finally here, ready to explore the connection between autism and autoimmune disease.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating area.
Yeah, it is, and one that's gaining more and more attention.
For sure.
So to really get into it, we're going to be looking at some excerpts from an article on cheap ABA.
Great source.
Yeah, and hopefully unpack some of the surprising links between these two complex conditions.
Right.
So first things first.
Yeah.
What exactly is an autoimmune disease?
Well, think of it this way. Your immune system, it's like your body's defense force, right?
Right.
But in an autoimmune disease, this force, it kind of goes rogue.
Oh, yeah.
It starts attacking healthy cells and tissues.
So it's like friendly fire.
Exactly. Like your body is waging war on itself.
Wow, that's intense.
It can be, yeah.
And the thing is, autism, which we usually think of as a neurodevelopmental condition, also seems to have this immune system link.
You got it.
So we've got these two seemingly separate things, but there's this underlying connection. Can you unpack that a little more for us?
Sure. Research actually shows that individuals with autism are more likely to have certain autoimmune disorders.
Like what? Give us an example.
Well, type 1 diabetes is a good one.
Oh, okay. So a specific type of diabetes.
Yeah, and it's a really clear example of this connection. In type 1 diabetes, the immune system, it attacks the cells in the pancreas that produce insulin.
Right, and insulin is...
Crucial for regulating blood sugar.
Got it.
Now, when someone has both autism and type 1 diabetes, things can get a bit more complicated.
How so?
Well, managing blood sugar can be tougher, and they might have heightened sensory sensitivities related to the diabetes itself.
So it's like the two conditions are interacting, making things more challenging.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why understanding this connection is so important.
It's not just that they happen to exist at the same time, they actually influence each other.
You got it.
Okay, so we're starting to see the link here, but the big question is WHY. Why would someone be susceptible to both?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Researchers are still trying to figure it all out. But there are some clues out there.
Give us the rundown.
Well, genetics play a role, for sure.
Okay, so it could be inherited.
Yeah, certain genes can increase the likelihood of both conditions.
That makes sense.
And then there's the environment.
The
Exposure to certain toxins like heavy metals or pesticides, those have been linked to an increased risk of both autism and autoimmune issues.
So things we're exposed to can really mess with our systems, huh?
They can, yeah, both the immune system and even neurodevelopment.
Wow.
And then, this is a big one, gut health.
Oh, gut health. Everyone's talking about gut health these days.
And for good reason. It's way more important than we thought.
Okay, so what's the connection to autism and autoimmune disease?
It all comes down to the bacteria in our gut, the gut microbiome. When there's an imbalance in these bacteria, it can be linked to both conditions.
So, like, too much of the bad bacteria.
It's not quite that simple. It's more about the overall diversity and balance of the microbiome.
Got it.
And certain species, they've been linked to inflammation, which plays a huge role in both autism and autoimmune disorders.
Right, inflammation. We hear that word a lot.
And for good reason. It's the body's natural response to injury or infection, but when it's chronic, it becomes a problem.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Right. Chronic inflammation, it can really wreak havoc on different systems, the immune system, even the brain.
Wow, it's like this underlying thread connecting everything.
It really is.
Okay, so we've got genetics, environmental toxins, and gut bacteria imbalances, all potentially contributing to this chronic inflammation.
Yep.
And this inflammation is a key factor in both autism and autoimmune diseases.
Exactly.
This is pretty heavy stuff.
It is, but the good news is understanding these connections is the first step to finding better solutions.
Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork here, but I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear what this all means for them, practically speaking.
Yeah, that's what we'll dive into next time. Stay tuned.
Ooh, cliffhanger. All right, everyone, make sure to come back for part 2, where we'll explore the implications of all this and what it means for treatment and management of these conditions.
It's going to be good.
It is. Can't wait. See you then.
All right, see you then.
So we were talking about inflammation being this kind of common thread between autism and autoimmune conditions.
Right, and how all these factors like genetics and the environment and gut health can contribute to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a puzzle, and we're starting to see how all the pieces fit together.
It is. It's really fascinating, but it's also, a little overwhelming.
I get it. But here's the thing. Understanding all of this, it's not just about knowing the problem, it's about opening up possibilities for better solutions.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. So how does this knowledge change the way we approach treatment? Well, one of the biggest shifts is this move towards personalized medicine.
Personalized medicine, so like tailored to the individual.
Exactly. We're moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach and recognizing that people with autism and autoimmune conditions, they need treatment plans that are specific to their situation.
Right, because everyone's different.
Absolutely. So instead of just assuming that what works for one person will work for everyone, we're looking at the whole picture.
What do you mean by the whole picture?
It means taking into account their genetic predispositions, their environmental exposures, the state of their gut microbiome, all of it.
So a more holistic approach.
Yeah. And this allows healthcare providers to develop a treatment strategy that's much more targeted and hopefully more effective.
That's pretty cool, actually. It's like empowering.
It is. It's about moving away from generic solutions and finding what truly works for each person.
I like that. So what kind of new treatment avenues are opening up because of this understanding?
Well, one area that's really promising is the use of dietary interventions.
Diet. So like changing what we eat can actually make a difference.
It can, yeah. For example, researchers are exploring the potential of prebiotics and probiotics to modulate the gut microbiome.
Prebiotics and probiotics, those are the good bacteria.
Right, they can be, yeah. They can help to restore the balance of the gut microbiome, which can, in turn, reduce inflammation.
So we could potentially manage or even prevent some of these conditions by simply changing what we eat.
It's definitely a possibility. There's still a lot of research to be done, but the early findings are very encouraging.
This is incredible. We've gone from these two separate conditions to discovering this surprising connection, and now we're talking about potentially revolutionizing treatment through things like diet.
And it's just the beginning. There's still so much more to learn.
That's exciting. But I have to ask, what about the people who are listening right now and thinking, okay, this is all fascinating, but where do I even start?
Yeah, I get that. It can feel overwhelming.
So what's a good first step? Something practical that people can do today?
It doesn't have to be anything drastic. One of the simplest yet most powerful things you can do is just become more aware of what you're putting into your body.
Okay, so being mindful of our diet.
Exactly. Start paying attention to food labels, notice the ingredients, maybe even keep a food journal for a week or two.
So just observe our current habits.
Yeah. You might be surprised by what you discover.
That's a good point. And then from there, we can start making gradual changes based on what we learn.
Exactly. And remember, everyone's journey is different.
Right. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and your body.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like my mind is blown wide open.
Me too. It's such a fascinating area of research.
It is. So we've covered a lot of ground today, but I want to make sure our listeners walk away with a clear takeaway. What's the one message you hope they remember?
I think the most important message is that we're not powerless.
We have agency.
Exactly. While the connection between autism and autoimmune disease is complex, understanding it gives us the power to make informed choices that can positively impact our health.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
It's about turning knowledge into action.
Absolutely. And I have no doubt that our listeners will do just that.
They're a smart bunch. Before we wrap up, though, I have one final question.
Hit me with it.
We focus on autism and autoimmune disease, but is there anything else out there, any other intriguing connections or areas of research that you think our listeners should be aware of? Something to pique their curiosity.
Oh, there's so much. Research is always uncovering new things.
It's true. So what's piqued your interest lately?
Well, one area that's really fascinating is the link between the gut microbiome and mental health.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the gut-brain connection.
It's not just about physical health anymore.
Right. We're hearing more and more about how the gut can impact our mood and even our behavior.
It's pretty amazing. It turns out that the gut microbiome, it actually plays a role in things like our mood, our cognitive function.
So it's not just digestion and things like that.
Nope. Researchers are finding specific bacteria that can actually influence neurotransmitters.
Neurotransmitters, those are the chemical messengers in the brain, right?
Yeah, like serotonin and dopamine.
And those are involved in mood regulation, right? Like happiness and all that.
Exactly. So the bacteria in our gut could actually be influencing our happiness.
Wow, that's mind-blowing.
It is. And this research, it has huge potential for new mental health treatments.
So instead of just medication, we could be looking at ways to target gut bacteria.
Exactly. Imagine being able to alleviate anxiety or depression by changing the bacteria in your gut.
That would be incredible.
It would. It's a whole new frontier.
It seems like we're just scratching the surface when it comes to the gut microbiome.
We are. It's such a complex and rapidly evolving field.
But even now, it really highlights how important gut health is.
For sure. It's not just about physical health. It's about our mental and emotional well-being, too.
That's a great point. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive, and I hope our listeners are feeling just as inspired as I am.
Me too. There's so much to learn and explore.
Absolutely. We've gone from autism and autoimmune disease to the gut-brain connection, and it's all connected.
It really is.
So to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. We'll be sure to include some resources in the show notes if you want to dive even deeper.
Always happy to share knowledge.
Well, your insights have been amazing. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And to everyone listening, stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.